Hey, it's Eric Lee. Welcome back to another business tip for interior designers. In this episode, I'd like to share some knowledge with you about the common fee structures to help those new designers coming into the industry get some perspective on how they should charge for their services. Okay, let's dive right into it and give you some common fee structures for designers. If you're thinking about getting into the industry and considering how you should be charging for your design services, then here are 4 most common fee structures that you can consider. 1. Fixed fee. This is also referred to as a flat fee. It's the easiest for clients to say yes to because there's a lot of certainty for them. You're giving them one price to cover the scope of work discussed. You will have to do some estimation on your part for the design time because you're going to be carrying the risk. It's good for designers who are more experienced and have a good process and can be self-managed because there's more risk for you. It's also the best option to build a close relationship with the client because it's easy for them to trust you. It's just one flat fee. Okay, here's some advantages to this. It's easiest to sign on a job because, like I said, there's less risk. There is less administration on your part because you really don't have to give timesheets to the client since it's a flat fee. It's pretty simple. And also there are no client-designer conflicts of interest because you're not charging them hourly or anything like that. It's one flat fee. It's super simple that way. Okay, and here are the disadvantages. The designer takes on more risk because you're giving them one flat fee. So you'll have to do the estimation upfront for your design time. Okay, the second one is the hourly model. This is the easiest for the designer because there's less risk for them. They're just charging by the hour. Having said this, the clients will still ask for an estimation of hours, so be ready for this. Have a rough ballpark in your mind. If the client isn't happy with this because they're taking more risk, they don't know what the maximum is, you could do a modified version called the hourly to maximum upset. So this is you charging by the hour, but then you can cap it off at a certain amount. It doesn't exceed that. Okay, here are the advantages. 1, there's less risk for you as the designer because you're just charging hourly. 2, it could be good for a client with a small scope because there's less risk for them, so they might like that actually. 3, the client may be more efficient in their decision making knowing that they're actually paying hourly. Now the disadvantages, there's more risk for the client, especially if it's a large scope. They don't know when it's going to end, right? 2, it may cause tension between the client-designer relationship because the designer now feels like you're charging for every minute. Also, most clients underestimate in their mind how much work goes into actually designing a project. So in the end, you may have to have some hard conversations with the client if they're surprised. It has more administration for you as a designer because now you're billing more often and you have to provide timesheets. And finally, it may be harder to close a job because of that unknown factor that the client has. They don't know where their cap is, so they might be hesitant to close on that job. Okay, the third type is a percentage model. So this is usually your fee being a percentage of the total project cost. The percentage varies greatly and it really depends if it's a small job or a large job. A small job would be a higher percentage and a large job would be a lower percentage. So you have to find out what's the common range in your marketplace. Now, usually it ends up being the most expensive for the client. And it's also not that common. So I don't recommend it unless it's a larger job or something that you can really estimate what the budget is going into it. The advantages, the client knows your fee up front, at a percentage at least, and if you know the budget, then that's easy for him to figure out. 2, there's less admin work on your side since there's less billing potentially, and you don't have to keep the timesheets because it's just based on a percentage. Here are the disadvantages. It could be a conflict of interest, especially because you, the designer, could have an influence on the budget depending on what you select or what you design. 2, harder for you to estimate your fees because in the beginning, your budget may not be known. This isn't as easy for new designers, especially because you don't have a good experience of estimating out jobs and you don't have a vast database of past projects where you can pull data from. Okay, the final fee structure is a unit rate. This is sometimes used in the industry. It's basically setting a rate of X dollars per unit area, like a square foot, for instance. This type of structure could be easy to calculate and standardize so that your fees can be easily understood by a client. For this fee structure though, you will have to do some initial estimation to see what that unit rate would be to cover your scope of work. If you have quite a typical service offering, then this could work well. But if your project scope of works vary all over the place, from like small rentals to large new builds, then this will be harder to standardize, so it may not be right for you. The advantages: the clients know your fees up front, so it's easy for them to quantify. There's also less administration for billing. The disadvantages: it will be harder for you as a new designer especially to estimate because you haven't built up that project experience to know how to set your rate for this. Also, this works well if your project type are usually whole home, but if it's like a reno or a small partial scope, then this fee model will be harder. It also affects the efficiency if you have many different project types where your scope of work varies, so you can't just apply a template unit structure to it. Alright, so I hope that content gives you a good intro into the different fee structures in our industry. If you're a new designer looking into setting up your own business, then check out my training program where it's tailored towards helping new designers accelerate their startup business. You can check it out at designersbusinessacademy.net. Thanks again for tuning back in. I'm Eric Lee, and I'm coaching designers on the business of design.